So to the outskirts of town, to the tribal casino. Dollars a night on the town, breaking even later more than now. One place where everything echo sound. Oh, the family that he lived, still living in old Louisville. Obligations to his father, then back out in. One birthday, two, maybe more. Takes out a drag, couple runs to the grocery store. 25 years old, the horizon is clear. Hopefully it takes him away from here. Cause every face he seems looks like a funhouse there. All drunk and disheveled, looking for a hole in government world. They're a little different here, but it don't hurt. I am you, you are. Choices I made just to keep you in your sister's faith. You may stumble, you may crawl in this hole in the world. You roll like a rolling ball. You got love.
How you guys doing today?
You got no regret.
Hopefully the music sounds a little bit more clear.
Like a star
If not, oops.
You'll be bad today, but I don't know how, and I sure don't know when. Green grass in the summer, rocks on the field in the fall. Spring coming from the winter, and now it's gone. We ain't never at all.
We're going to be starting here in a few seconds. So we're getting on the radio right now. Okay, Tonio. Sanita. Isto. Iksu. No, sokimus. Kika, net sokimus. I feel good. No, sokimus. Isto. I feel good because of you. Eat, damn, it's a good day. As is customary with Neat Sitapiapi, we'll start it off with a prayer. Ayos chapatpio. Ayos pumitapiks, not to eat the pigs. Kito to the maps, puaw. Kite kimmo kihpinan. Kite hikatsamato, anok. Spumokinan, nakisei kakimasin. Ki nakisei spumootsisenan. Ki nakkeeniistutuussinan kaneetapio. Ayo, ispäätipio, kite hikatsamato. Spummokinan. Aamu, mohsokoi. Ihtaaku tuhpenan. Maksukaapis. Iteksemstä tuhpenan. Enni ististäikanistihpenan. Ahkutsukaapis. Ni päätäpisenan. Ayos päätäpiop sumos umkitapiks. Taka eniksikkau. Ni tomhtuun nihpinan. nitatapiapi ki ni tsi puuksen. Spumusa no kuusenanix. Maksitama si upähtäpi suau. Kiamokske I tuiniksi jawi. Kika I tuinni kiwa watsiksi. Spumusa mahkitam suku tsiahkaisau. Oh, ken kamotan ken. What did I just say? Let's translate that. Ay, oh, source of life. Ay, spumitapiks. Oh, celestial beings. Kitutamaps wow. You are very important. Kitekimukpinan. You take pity on us. Kitekikatsimatukpuau. Anochshishiko. We call upon you on this day. Spumokina nakiseiga kemasenan. Help us so that we may always try hard. So that we may always help each other out. So that we may honor all people. Oh, source of life, I call upon you. Help us. On this road that we are on. So that it is good. Or any it's daya ganishishpinan. Akut sukapis ni batapisinan. And that we may think about the ways in which our lives may be good. Oh, source of love, help the old people. Taka, enikshika, nitongtun nishpinan, nitsitapyapi, nitsi puxen. Because we know that those old people, they have those Blackfoot ways in our Blackfoot language. Almost help our children. So that their lives are filled with happiness. And all in those veterans. Spumosa. Help those veterans so that they may come back home in a happy way. Oh, for their survival. You know, and one thing I really like about Nitsi and Atsimwichkan is we pray for everyone, you know? We pray for everyone. So let's also take a prayer. And with that old indigenous way, and let's just pray for everything under the sun right now. And anything that I think of, we're gonna pray, and I'll say it in Nitsi, and then I'll say it in English. And also, this is designed so that we get our kinship and understand our kinship. Okay, I wish Batbio Spomosa Ninna Nunix. Or kika, not twisto to sa ninna nunix. Bless our fathers. Not twisto to sa nixista nunix. Bless our mothers. Not twisto to sa nokusa nunix. Bless our children. Not twisto to sa naachsa nunix. Bless our grandparents. Not twisted sa ni sitapimanunix. Bless our families. Not twisted sa ni tumitaminunix. Bless our dogs. Not twisted sa ni tohposiminunix. Bless our kitty cats. Not twisted sa no dasanunix. Bless our horses. Natuistutusa ni daxini menunix. Bless our pigs, because I know some of you have pigs. Natuistutusa ni taputskina menunix. Bless our cattle, because I know some of you have cattle. Natuistutusa ni tsini menunix. Bless our buffalo, because buffalo are important, eh? Natuistutusa nitska menunix. Bless all of our pets and our companions. So let's go over some kinship terms. The way you say my father is Ninna. I'd say Ninna Anista Victor. My dad's name is Victor. He is. Nam Nixist Anista Olivia. My late mother's name is Olivia. Nixist. So let's say I love these people too. So Ninna is father. Nitsikako memao. Nin. I love my father. Nin gitsikako memok. My father loves me. Nitsikako memao ni exist. I love my mother. And ni exist. Or ama ni exist. Nitsikako memok. My mother loves me. Nitsikako memao niskani. I love my little brother. Ama niskani nitsikako memok. My little brother loves me. Ni sa is older brother. Nitsikako memao ni sa. I love my older brother. Ni sa anistao Kellen. My older brother's name is Kellen. Nitsikako memao ninstao. I love my older sister. Nitsikako memaya ninstex. I love my older sisters. Ninstex anistayao. Lindsay, Gee, Shane. My older sisters are named Lindsay and Shane. Nitsikako mema na achs. I love my grandparent. Na achs anista achsetomo. My grandma's name is Good Leader. Utayapich Shkasim. Her English name is Cynthia Kipp. The way you say my family, the root of it is matapi. Matapi is a person. And also kind of refers to life. Batapis in life. Ni batapis in my life. But matapi, human or person. And then I would say ni tsitapi mix, my family. So you're kind of saying my people, right? So kitsitapi mix, your family. Ni tsitapi mix, my halls. My family are the halls. We come from Awatstatsukyo Bas. Sits himself in the middle. And from my understanding, I stand to be corrected. His wife was Ni Tse Simpson. Drinks tea alone. Ni Tse Simpson. And Utan Utsinshkasim Ksiskstakshapil. Their daughter's name was Beaver Eyes, or looks like a beaver in terms of their eyes are like a beaver. And there is actually an individual who holds that name now. I won't out her on the radio. But if you're interested who holds that name now, I'd be happy to share. Beaver Eyes. And see, she married a man named John Hall, who came up on a cattle drive from Texas. The county was Goodnight, Texas, and it was a British man. And from my understanding, they came up on this cattle drive to pay for their schooling. And John Hall came up with one of his brothers. I don't know his name. But you see, he ended up going to Sioux country and marrying a Lakota woman. So there's all those Halls over there that we're related to, apparently. But see, John Hall settled here, and he settled in a married Beaver Eyes. And they had 5 children. And that's where all of us Halls come from. What's interesting, too, is that we were the first people called half-breeds. And, what's really funny, too, is that, see, the original Halls, those Hall children, they were kicked off the res because they weren't Indian enough. Because, again, they were some of the first quote-unquote half-breeds. By the way, I hate that word. And yes, sorry for using that word, hate, because that is powerful, but I just don't like racial terminology. Anyways, I digress. So, they were kicked off the res for not being Indian enough, and then all the white guys were like, we don't want these Indians, so they kicked them back on the res. So for a while there, all those Halls, all they did is just sit on the fence. They weren't allowed in, they weren't allowed out. Anyways, I'm going off on my own history. But anyways, the way you say my dog, it's the same as the way what you're doing to person. You're taking person and you're putting 2 sounds at the beginning and the end. So matapi, and then you turn into ni sitapim, meaning my person, or ni sitapim mix, my family. So you take the word imita, which is dog, and the way you say my dog is nitumitam. Nitumitam. Nitsikakomema nitumitam. I love my dog. Nitsikakomemayao nitumitamix. I love my dogs. I do. Nitumitam anistao Puddles. My dog's name is Puddles. Nitumitam itamitakyo. My dog is happy. The way you say cat is bos. Bos. My cat nitochposim. Nitochposim. Now, be aware of how the language works. Now, I actually heard someone a while ago say, oh, the way you say my cat is nistopos. And naturally, the fluent speakers laughed because what you're saying when you say nistopos, you're saying I am a cat. You have to say nitochposim, my cat. Nitsigacomemaya nitochposimix. I love my kitty cats because I do. Nitochposim anistao Ziggy. My cat's name is Ziggy. So I would say, Katometamich. Do you have a dog? Katometamich. Nitometam. Nitometam anistao Puddles. Yes, I have a dog. My dog's name is Puddles. Katochposim. Katochposim. Do you have a cat? Nitochposim. Anistao Ziggy. Yes, I have a cat. Her name is Ziggy. The way you say my pig, again, you take the word pig, axony. And also, where did that word come from, axony? And what I was told is that it comes from the way they sound. Axony, axony. Anyways, the way you say my pig, nidaxonym. So you're hearing this this consistency there. It begins the same and it ends the same. Nidaxonym, my pig. Kataxonym. Do you have a pig? I don't. But you can say nidaxonym anista Piglet. My pig's name is Piglet. The word for horse, my horse, is an interesting word because it doesn't get its derived from elk dog, punokamita. Of course, you can say nitunokamitam for my horse, or you're saying my elk dog, right? Nitunokamitam, my elk dog. But with Nitsidapiapi, the horse became our prominent beast of burden. And with that, the word is utas. Utas. So, and it means like beast of burden. Because way back, what we call the dog days is imito das, when the dogs were the beast of burden. And now we shifted into an era called punokamitapi, meaning the culture of the horse. But again, the way you say my horse is no das. No das, my horse. No das. No das, my horses. No das. And a lot of names that have the word horse in there is usually o das. So ako das means many horses or one who owns many horses. Gati tsu das, no pretty horses. Gati tsu das. That's someone's name. I can't recall who holds that name at the moment, but that's how you say no pretty horses. But oh no das, my horse. Nitsigako mema no das. I love my horse. The way you would say my bear. Now I know that's kind of weird because who would own a bear? Well, you know who would own a bear? Christopher Robin. He owns a bear. And you know what? Christopher Robin, you don't know. He might speak Blackfoot. I don't know. But anyways, the way you would say, oh, my bear's nitohkyayum. Nitohkyayum, my bear. Kyayo is bear. Nitohkyayum, my bear. It's really important. So you hear how these words are, and I'm going to repeat them now. I'll say just like the neutral term for the animal, and then I'm going to say my animal. So dog, imita. My dog, nitumitam. Cat, bus. My cat, nitochbusim. Pig, axini. My pig nidaxini. Cow, abutskina. My cow, nidabutskina. Horse, bunogamita. Remember, the word for my horse is no das. Of course, you could say nitonokamitam, and I personally will understand what you're saying. And it's grammatically correct. But again, with respect to nitsidapyapi, our ways, we say no das. Fish. I know some of you own fish. Now this word changes a lot, and it's just the way that the language is. Just the nature of the language. Mami is a fish. Mami. And the way you say my fish is nitumim. Nitumim. My fish. Nitumim. I stand to be corrected, but I believe that last name that we hear on the res, fish, it originated from a word, the long name was fish wolf robe. And I believe it was mami makoyani. Mami makoyani. Fish wolf robe. Mami makoyani. Mami makoyani. And that's a couple of our language. So here's some more kinship terms. No gos, my child. Nidanna, my daughter. What I find amazing with a gay person is, so you could say uma nina nin, that man's my father, but it's easier just to say ni tinam, I've taken this person in as a father. But you would also say that about a chief. This person's my chief. And you need tinam. And it's just the truth to the Blackfoot Confederacy out there, particularly the Amskapi Pi Kani, that ama akya ba gay pin ni tinam. Charging home is our chief. Or I can say, ama Earl O person ni tinam. Earl O person is our chief. And then the way you could say, I've taken this person in as a mother. Nixistam, or kika nixistam. Sorry, nixistam, nixistam, nixistam. I taken this person in as a mother. Nixistam, nixistam. Okay, I'm gonna rest my vocals for one song, and then I'm gonna come back, and when I get back, I'm gonna read some content from some books. So stay tuned. Let's see how good this music will come on the YouTube live channel that we have going in tandem with our Thunder Radio 107.5.
Well, it's alright. Riding around in the breeze. Well, it's alright. If you don't have your sleeves, well, it's alright. Doing the best you can, well, it's alright. As long as you lend a hand. You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring. Waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring. Well, it's alright. Even if they say you're wrong, well, it's alright. Sometimes you gotta be strong. Well, it's alright. Moment to lay, well, it's alright. Every day is Judgment Day. Maybe somewhere down the road away, at the end of the line, you'd think of me and wonder where I am these days. At the end of the line, maybe somewhere down the road when somebody plays. At the end of the line, Purple Haze. Well, it's alright. Even when push comes to shove, well, it's alright. If you got someone to love, well, it's alright. Everything will work out fine, but it's alright. We're going to the end of the line.
This artwork right here
Don't have to be
was made by Lindy Receipt. I really love her work. It has great colors. I don't know. What else can I say? This God's Eye here was made by my grandma Sid in 1987. That was a gift for me.
You still got something to say. Well, it's alright. Remember to live and live. Well, it's alright. Best you can do is forgive. Well, it's alright. Riding around the breeze. Well, it's alright. If you please. Well, it's alright. Even if the sun don't shine, then it's alright.
That was the Traveling Wilburys. End of the line. That band is consisted of George Harrison, Roy Orbison, what's his face? What's his name? You know, Tom Petty, Jeff Lane, and Bob Dylan. They got that name Wilburys because when they were recording, and then like you would hear background noise, well, we'll bury it in the background. And Traveling Wilburys. Anyways, here's some reading that comes from the Blackfoot Papers as put together by Adolf Hungerwolf. And this is from the first book. And first, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with Jim Whitecalf's geological comments as told to Claude Schaefer in 1950. Mountain, me stucky, meaning something hard and high. The chain of mountains are me stucky. A cliff or rim rock, me stuck school. A mountain summit, mugakin, meaning the backbone. Mugakin. Nugakin, my backbone. High bank on a river, Akikshu, meaning a shortcut earth. Akikshu. Another thing I just want to make a comment is because a lot of these people who were riding down Nitsi and they did not speak Blackfoot. So a lot of their attempts at writing it will have interesting anomalies. So as a language revitalist, I have to work through them. And rather than using them as an excuse to continue with the bad writing, I will try to enunciate these words as clear as possible as they're originally spoken. Anyways, here we go. Low ridge, like the Milk River Divide. Banachko, meaning high ground. Banachko. A mountain that's higher than others, or a higher hard mountain. Spee-stuck. Rising wolf. And what we used to call it apparently was Sharp Mountain. Ksisistak. But the way you say a rising wolf is Makoi amesu, meaning a wolf going up, Makoi amesu. But yeah, the old word for mountaintop was Makoi. I mean, Sharp Mountain. Cut bank, like a cut bank, not the Cut Bank town or even the Cut Bank River, but the Cut Bank is a Spukkekshu, meaning high cut down. Spukkekshu. A butte, Nitomo. So the word for Ghost Ridge again, Xistapsi Domo. Ghost Ridge. Xistapsi Domo. And it literally means Ghost Ridge, right? Xistapsi Domo. Just the note, Xistapsi refers to a spirit that has no direction. Xistapsi. A Xistapitapi is like a person with no direction, and potentially you could use that for a zombie. Xistapitapi. The prairie, Salke. And you're talking about how it's like all leveled and flat compared to the mountains, right? Salke. We are the Salkitapi, the prairie people. A coolie, Ganachko. A valley coulee, tikam, meaning low two-sided, like a coulee by the boarding school on the reservation. You know where that's at, all your Browningites. A glacier is sakokotoistake. Sakokotoistake, meaning an ice mountain. Sakokoto is ice. Sakokotoisko is also could be referred to glass because it looked like ice. Sakokotisko. So sakokotoistake, icy mountain or a glacier. A whirlpool, awatakoi. Awatakoi, meaning water spinning round in a hole. Awatakoi. Awatakoi. Awatakoi, or utaksin is a circle. Awatakoi, spinning in a circle. A forest. Atsuesco. Atsuesco. Forest. Pine forest. Bachtaksko. Bachtaksko. So a bachtoke, I believe, is a pine tree. Bachtuksko is a pine forest. Trail or tracks, mochsokoi. Mochsokoi is a road, mochsokoi. A wolf road is makoyochsoi, and that's the Milky Way. Makoyochsoi. A creek, asitchta. Asitchta, and it means a young strip. Because it says here, nichtai means a strip. And again, this is coming from James Whitecalf's Geological Comments as told to Claude Scheffer in 1950. Nichta, plain strip. And then the Missouri is the big river, meaning the big strip. A lake, and you're just saying big water. And then a little lake is meaning a little big river or a little big water, you know. A small river. And then a pond could be small body of water. Cup Bank Creek is Bunokase. Banaka, there you go, Banakase. And it means cut earth. Mr. Jim Whitecalf said the trail over the mountains to the west ran along the North Fork of the Cup Bank. And some people even referred to Cup Bank Creek as Gatoyokan. Gatoyokan. Like Gatoyis is blood clot. Gatoyokan means Sweet Medicine Pine Medicine Lodge. The name came from the fact that the first medicine lodge built with alpine fir took place in that area. Two Medicine River, Natokyoka. Two Medicine Lodges River, right? Natokyoka. It was named after two medicine lodges that were held along this river in the same season. Elk River, Bonoke se Sachta. There you go, Bonoke se Sachta. And that's a Yellowstone, Bonoke Tchta, the Elk River, Bonoke Tchta. Badger Creek, Misinski se Sachta. You're literally saying Badger Creek, but the word badger it means striped face, Misinski. Misinski asitchta. Badger Creek. Misinski sisachta. Blacktail Creek. Isikatoyishko. And it means many deer place where a lot of black-tailed deer would be. Esikatoyishko. Esikatoyishko. Marias River is Gayitchta. the Bear River. Gayetchta. Marias. Gayetchta. Blackfoot River. Sixagaytchta. Sixagaytchta. The Sweet Grass Hills. Gatoyasix, meaning sweet pine hills or even the blood clots. Gatoyasix. Gatoyasix. Cypress Hills. Eichkemiko, meaning striped earth. Eichkemiko. Asenechpe, riding on stone. Asenechpe. Asenechpe. Now, just reading some more. On page 148 in book 1 of the Blackfoot Papers, comments on the Blackfeet land by Chief Earl Operson. Columbus was looking for India, so that's why we are called Indians. Makes me wonder, what if he'd been looking for Turkey? Or even Chile? Oh, we'd all be called chili peppers, innit? Back when the treaties were made, we outnumbered the white people. So they made a lot of good offers. Now they outnumber us. So I guess they figure they can break the treaties. We were being moved from one place to another in the early reservation times. If it wasn't for these mountains, maybe we would still be getting moved. Today, we still question the Treaty of 1896. The land ceding of Glacier National Park. For years, we've been looking for that thing in the treaties that we were told, but we don't find them written. The one translating back then didn't tell us the same as what was written. The interpreter is in a photo with the government commissioner, and they all look the same. That makes me wonder, what kind of interpretation was he giving? You know, we're also claiming the Sweet Grass Hills, Gatoyasix. In our agreement, they didn't go by the real value of these lands. They didn't look to see what they mean to us. They just said, here's what we'll give you for it. And it was always the same amount. In Glacier Park, we were just told in our agreement, you can have the rocks. We didn't talk about what's underneath. We used to have a large area of land. This whole part is what was now Montana, was ours at one time. And really quick, I want to talk about the reservation communities, particularly the agencies. The 4 agency locations for Beekani. From 1869 to 1876 was the Shodo Agency period. Plenty of buffalo, band divisions in those days. Some old people were left to camp at the agency and thus be supported. Most of the tribe went away to winter camps, usually along Gayetchta, the Bear River. From 1876 to 1880 was Running Crane Agency period. This locality was not chosen for the convenience of the Beekani, but mainly to free up the lands further south for settlers, which is a major theme. Whenever you're studying the way that our lands are taken, every step that Napiquan took was to limit our land. Weekly rations began during this period. Although there was still plenty of buffalo, and most people depended on hunting, they started giving out rations at a high rate. From 1880 to 1895 was Akideshino, the old agency. You see, the buffalo disappeared in the first years, and the Beekani suffered through starvation winter. We had nothing to eat. This forced the people to learn quickly to rely on government rations or die. Bands were no longer important for hunting. what hunting remained was individual hunting, and they had little influence on reservation politics. The people still wintered in a concentrated area along the Big Badger in the first years. Slowly, they scattered out with no more fears of attack by raiding parties. The scattering picked up with the distribution of cattle and larger horses. After the Sweetgrass Hills were sold, some groups moved to the Cupbank area and even to Canada to get away from the agency with its problems and distractions. Some bands broke up completely. Others stayed relatively intact. It depended largely on the strength of the band leader and his family ties. So just to reiterate, during the old agency period from 1880 to 1895 is when the bands within our culture can see started getting lower. And that's when we started becoming the chipping away at our political structure at that moment. And then now in 1895, the Browning Agency, which was named after the Indian agent at that time, his name was Daniel Browning. And the reason why they chose Browning, where it's at now, which, by the way, just commenting, it's not the best place to build a town because it's kind of a swampy area and a lot of homes are infested with mold. For that, I apologize. But the reason why he chose that area, old Daniel Brown, is because his wife liked the flowers that grew in the area. So he's like, we'll build a town, we'll name it after myself. The audacity. But anyways, Browning Agency begins. Stores and houses are built, and the first Begunny town is the result. And Browning was a hopping place back in the day, y'all. And it's kind of sad in a way that old Browning is all torn down and burnt down, because the Sherburne Mark was up our whole lives, and it finally burnt 10 years ago. And what's really cool is, so when I was in college at U of M, a lot of Sherburne's archives are there, and I remember going through his archives and through this payment book he had. I remember going to a random page and it said, "White Calf owes me 25 cents." So I wonder if he ever got that 25 cents, But see, Browning has a few words that we call it. Mike Swimsunder had said, "The way my dad told me, Joe Brown was the first one to live where they built Browning. He had a horse with a yellow-brown nose. So the Begunny called that place Yellow Nose Town." And James Boyd recalled his grandfather, Bird Rattle, using the following terms to refer to Browning. He said, meaning light brown nose town. He also called it Achsetachta, or Willow Creek, Young Creek. And the other one was Itunyo. And it kind of means where our father is, or where we get sustenance, and that means agency. So yeah, those three names for Browning. Brown Nose Town, Achsetachta, the Willow Creek, and Itunyo, the agency. Pretty cool stuff. I'm going to read a little bit of George Bird Grinnell. Who was George Bird Grinnell? I'll be talking about him more because his book is valuable to read. But you have to remember, it's the product of a Napiquan who didn't understand Nitidapyapi fully. He was a very predominant ethnographer, somebody who writes about cultures. And in some perspectives, he was a good guy, but in some perspectives, he was kind of not that good of a guy. He was predominant in, I believe he was predominant in establishing Glacier National Park, But I mean, like, his most enduring achievement was that cited by President Coolidge when he presented the Theodore Roosevelt Gold Medal of Honor to Grinnell in 1925. President Coolidge said, "Few have done as much as you, and none has done more to preserve vast areas of picturesque wilderness in the eyes of posterity." And people say it was largely thanks to Grinnell that Glacier National Park was created. And in Yellowstone Park, the president at that time said, "He prevented the exploitation and therefore the destruction of the natural beauty." And so, he was revered by his own people. But I'm going to read this story, and again, sadly, I don't know Grinnell doesn't offer the names of the people who told him these stories, but we do know that it was Piikani people. So this story is called "The Peace with the Snakes." In those days, there was, and okay, before I continue reading, I'm going to change every time he writes pagan. I'm just going to say Piikani. In those days, there was a Piikani chief named Owlbear, Sipustohkyayo. He was a great chief, very brave and generous. One night, he had a dream, Apopokan. He saw many dead bodies of the enemy lying about, scalped, and he knew that he must go to war. So he called out for a feast, and after the people had eaten, he said, "I had a strong dream last night. I went to war against the Piiksiksinaitapiks, the snakes, and killed many of their warriors. So the signs are good, and I feel that I must go. Let us have a big party now, and I will be the leader. We will start tomorrow night." Then he told the two old women to go out in the camp and shout the news so that all might know. A big party was made up. 200 men, they say, went with this chief to war. At the first night they traveled only a little way, for they were not used to walking and soon got tired. In the morning the chief got up early and went and made a sacrifice. And when he came back to the others, someone said, "Come on now, tell us your dream of this night." "I dreamed good," said Sipustohkyayo. "I had a good dream. We will have good luck." But many others said that they had bad dreams. They saw blood running from their bodies. Night came, and the party started on, traveling south. By the way, because a lot of war parties, they would travel at night. And keeping near the foothills. And when daylight came, they stopped in a thick pine woods and built war lodges. They put up poles as for lodges and covered them with thick pine so that they could build fires and cook. And no one would see the light and smoke. And they all ate some of the food they carried and then all went to sleep. Again, the chief had good dreams, but the others all had bad dreams, and some talked about turning back. But Sipustohkyayo laughed at them, and one night came, they all started on. So they traveled for some nights, and all kept dreaming bad, except for the chief. He always had good dreams. One day after a sleep, a person again asked Sipustohkyayo if he dreamed good. "Ah," he replied, "I have again dreamed of good luck." "We still dream bad," said the person said, "and now some of us are going to turn back. We will not go any further, for bad luck is surely ahead." Go back, said Sipustohkyayo. "I think you are all cowards. I want no cowards with me." They did not speak again. Many of them turned around and started north towards home. 2 more days' travel, Owlbear and his warriors went on, and then another party turned back, for they still had bad dreams. All the men now left with him were his relations. All the others had turned back. They traveled on and traveled on, always having bad dreams until they came close to Bunuke Takhta, the Elk River, or the Yellowstone River. Then the oldest relation said, "Come, my chief, let us all turn back. We still have bad dreams. We cannot have good luck." "No," replied Sipistochyayo, "I will not turn back." Then they were going to seize him and tie his hands, for they had talked of this before. They thought to tie him and make him go back with them. Then the chief got very angry. He put an arrow on his bow and said, "Do not touch me. You are all my relations, but if any of you try to tie me, I will kill you. Now I am ashamed. My relations are cowards and will turn back. I have told you I have always dreamed good, and that we would have good luck. Now I don't care. I'm covered with shame. I'm going now to the snake camp and will give them my body. I am ashamed. Go. And when you get home, put on women's dresses. You are no longer men." They said no more. They turned back homeward, and the chief was all alone. His heart was very sad as he traveled on, and he was much ashamed, for all his relations had left him. Night was coming on, the sun had set, and the rain began to fall. Sipistochyayo looked around for some place where he could sleep dry. Close by, he saw a hole in the rocks. He got down on his hands and knees and crept in. Here it was very dark. He could see nothing, so he crept on very slowly, feeling as he went. All at once his hands touched something strange. He felt of it. It was a person's foot, and there was a moccasin on it. He stopped and sat still. Then he felt a little further. Yes, it was a person's leg. He could feel the cow's skin legging. Now he did not know what to do. He thought perhaps it was a dead person. And again, he thought it might be one of his relations who had become ashamed and turned back after him. Pretty soon he put his hand on his leg again and felt along up. He touched the person's belly. It was warm. He felt of the breast. He could feel it rise, fall as the breath came and went, and the heart was beating fast. Still, the person did not move. Maybe he was afraid. Perhaps he thought that was a ghost feeling of him. Sipistochyayo knew this person was not dead. He thought he would try if he could learn who the man was, for he was not afraid. His heart was sad. His people and his relations had left him, and he had made up his mind to give his body to the Beeksiks and Netapiks, the snakes. So he began to fell all over. He felt all over the man, of his face, his hair, robes, leggings, belt, weapons, and by he stopped feeling of him. He could not tell whether it was one of his people or not. Pretty soon the strange person sat up and felt all over Sipistochyayo. When he had finished, he took the beak on his hand and opened it and held it up, waving it from side to side, saying by Apstochs in sign language, "Takagisto, who are you?" Sipistochyayo put his closed hand against the person's cheek and rubbed it. He said in sign language, "Bikani." And then he asked the person who he was. A finger was placed against his breast and moved across zigzag. It was the sign for the Beeksiks and the snake. "Yeah," thought Sipistochyayo, and Nixkok, Beeksiks and it is a snake person, my enemy. For a long time he sat still thinking. By and by he drew his knife from his belt and placed it in the snake's hand and signed, "Kill me." He waited. He thought soon his heart would be cut. He wanted to die. Why live? His people had left him. Then the big Csikszentmihalyi took Szipisztochgályo's hand and put a knife in it in motion that he should cut his heart. But the big Gunny would not do it. He lay down, and the big Csikszentmihalyi lay down beside him. Maybe they slept, likely not. So the night went, and morning came. It was light, and then they crawled out of the cave and talked for a long time together with opstocks and sign language. Szipisztochgályo told that big Csikszentmihalyi where he had come from and how his party had dreamed bad and left him, and that he was going alone to give his body to the big Csikszentmihalyi. Then the big Csikszentmihalyi said, I was going to war too. I was going to go against the big Gunny. Now I am done. Are you the chief? I am the head chief, replied Szipisztochgályo. I lead. All the others follow. I am the same as you, said the snake. I am the chief. I like you. You are brave. You give me your knife to kill you with. How is your heart? Shall the big Csikszentmihalyi and the big Gunny make peace? Your words are good, replied Szipisztochgályo. You make me feel good. How many nights will it take you to go home and come back here with your people? Asked the snake. Szipisztochgályo action style. He thought, and he counted. In 25 nights, he says, the big Gunny will camp down by that crick. My trail, said the snake, Indian, goes across the mountains. I will try to be here in 25 nights, but I will camp with my people just behind that first mountain. When you get here with the big Gunny, come with one of your wives and stay all night with me. In the morning, the big Csikszentmihalyi will move up and put their lodges beside the big Gunny. As you say, replied Szipisztochgályo. So it shall be done. Then they built a fire and cooked some meat, and they ate together. I am ashamed to go home, said Szipisztochgályo. I have taken no horses, no scalps. Let me cut off your side lock. Take them, said the snake. Szipisztochgályo cut off the chief's braids close to his head, and then the snake cut off the big Gunny's braids. Then they exchanged clothes and weapons and started out, the big Gunny north and the big Csikszentmihalyi south. Szipisztochgályo, ako do! Szipisztochgályo, ako do! Owlbear has come back! Owlbear has arrived! The people were shouting. Ako do! He has arrived! The warriors rushed into his lodge. Whoosh! How quickly it was filled. Hundreds stood outside waiting to hear the news. For a long time, Szipisztochgályo wouldn't speak. He was still angry with his people. An old man was talking, telling the news of the camp. Szipisztochgályo didn't even look at him. He ate some food and rested. Many were in the lodge who had started the war with him. They were now ashamed. They did not speak either, but kept looking at the fire. After a long time, the chief said, I traveled on alone. I met a snake. I took his scalp and clothes and his weapons. See, here is his scalp. And he held up the 2 braids of his hair. No one spoke. But then Szipisztochgályo saw them nudge each other a smile. And then they smiled a little. And soon they went out and said to one another, What a lie! That is not the enemy's scalp. There is no flesh on it. He has robbed some dead person. Someone told the chief what they had said, but he only laughed and replied, I do not care. They were too much afraid even to go on and rob a dead person. They should wear women's dresses. Stomachinosi. They should dress as women. Near sunset, Szipisztochgályo called for a horse and rode all through camp so everyone could hear, shouting out, Isztyd! Isztyd! Listen, listen! Tomorrow we move camp. We move south. The Piikani and the Shoshone are going to make peace. If anyone refuses to go, I will kill them. All must go. Then an old medicine man came up to him and said, Get! Hear me. Why talk like this? You know we are not afraid of the Shoshone. We have not fought them and driven them. Have we not fought them and driven them out of this country? Do you think we are afraid to go and meet them? No, we will go and we will make peace with them, as you say. And if they want to fight, we will fight. Now you are angry with those who started to war with you. Don't be angry. Dreams belong to the sun. He gave them to us so that we can see ahead and know what will happen. The Piikani are not cowards. Their dreams told them to turn back. Do not be angry with them anymore. There is truth in what you say, old man, replied Siipistohkaayo. I will take your words. In those days, the Piikani were a great tribe. Hey, we still are a great tribe, for goodness sakes. When they traveled, if you were with the head ones, you could not see the last ones because they were so far back. They had more horses than they could count, so they used fresh horses every day and traveled very fast. On the 24th day, they reached a place where Siipistohkaayo had told the Biiksiiksiniitapi where they would camp, and they put up their lodges along the creek. Soon some young men came in and said they had seen some fresh horse trails up toward the mountain. It must be the Biiksiiksiniitapi, the chiefs, said the chief. They have already arrived, although there is yet one night. So he called one of his wives, and getting on their horses, they set out to find the Shoshone camp. They took the trail up over the mountain and soon came in sight of the lodges. It was a big camp. Every open place in the valley was covered with lodges, and the hills were dotted with horses. For the Biiksiiksiniitapi had many, many more horses than the Piikani. Some of the Biiksiiksiniitapi saw the Piikani coming, and they ran to their chief, saying, 2 strangers are in sight, coming this way. What shall be done? Do no harm to them, replied the chief. They are friends of mine. I have been expecting them. Then the snakes wondered, for the chief had told them nothing about his war trip. Now when Siipistohkaayo had come to the camp, he asked in sign language for the chief's lodge, and they pointed him to one in the middle. It was small and old. The Piikani got off his horse, and the Shoshone chief came out and hugged him and kissed him. So that's another thing. Snowskipson is not duapi, it's sacred. And when those people in those sacred societies greet each other, they give a small on the lips, small snowskipson. So that chief came out and hugged him and kissed him and said, I am glad you have come today to my lodge. So are my people. You are tired. Enter my lodge and we will eat. So they sat down, and many of the Shoshone came in, and they had a great feast. Then the Shoshone chief told his people how he had met the Piikani and how brave he was, and that now they were going to make great peace. And he sent some men to tell the people so that they would be ready to move camp in the morning. Evening came. Everywhere people were shouting out for feasts, and the chief took Owlbear to them. It was very late when they returned. Then the Shoshone had one of his wives make a bed at the back of the lodge. And when it was ready, he said, Now, my friend, there is your bed. This is now your lodge. Also, the woman who made the bed, she is now your wife. Also, everything in this lodge is yours. The parfleche, the saddles, the food, the robes, bowls, everything is yours. I give them to you because you are my friend and a brave man. You give me too much, replied Siipistohkaayo. I am ashamed, but I take your words. I have nothing with me but one wife. She is yours. Next morning, camp was broken early. The horses were driven in, and the Shoshone chief gave Sipistochgayo his whole band, 200 head, all large, powerful horses. All were now ready, and the chief started ahead. Close behind them were all the warriors, hundreds and hundreds, and last came the women and children, and the young men driving the loose horses. As they came in sight of the Beikani camp, all the warriors started out to meet them, dressed in their war costumes and singing the great war songs. There was no wind, and the sound came across the valley and up the hill like a noise of thunder. Then the snakes began to sing, and thus the two parties advanced. At last they met. The Beikani turned and rode beside them, and so they came to camp. Then they got off their horses and they kissed each other, snow skips. Every Beikani asked the snake into their lodge to eat and rest, and the Beeksiks and Etapiakiks, the Shoshone women, put up their lodges beside the Beikani lodges. So the great peace was made. In Sipistochgayo's lodge there was a great feast, and when they had finished, he said to his people, "Here is the man whose scalp I took. Did I say I killed him? No. I gave him my knife, and I told him to kill me. He would not do it, and he gave me his knife, but I would not kill him. So we talked together what we should do, and now we have made peace. And now," turning towards that Shoshone chief, "this is your lodge, also all the things in it, my horses too. Gitokwut, I give them to you. All are yours." And so it was. The Beikani took the Shoshone chief's wife, the lodge, and the horses. And the snakes, they took all the Beikanis. And they camped together side by side. All the people camped together and feasted and made each other presents. So peace was made. Many days they camped side by side. The young men kept hunting, and the women were always busy drying meat and tanning robes and cowskins. Buffalo were always close, and after a while the people had all the meat and the robes they could carry. Then one day the Shoshone chief said to Sipistochgayo, "Now, my friend, we have camped a long time together, and I am glad we have made peace. We have dug a hole in the ground, and in it we have put our anger and covered it up. So there is no more war between us, and now I think it is time to go. Tomorrow morning, the Shoshone will break camp and we will go back south." "Your words are good," replied Sipistochgayo. "I too am glad we have made peace. You say you must go south, and I feel lonesome. I would like you to go with us so we could camp together a long time, but as you say, so it shall be done. Tomorrow you will start south. I too shall break the camp, for I would be lonesome here without you, and the Beikani will start in our home direction." The lodges were being taken down and packed. The men sat about the fireplaces, taking a last smoke together. They were now great friends. Many Shoshone had married Beikani women, and many Beikani had married Shoshone women. At last all was ready. The great chiefs mounted their horses and started out, and soon both parties were strung out on the trail. Some young men, however, stayed behind to gamble a while. And it was yet early in the morning, and by riding fast it would not take them long to catch up with their camps. All day they kept gambling, and sometimes the Beikani would win, and sometimes Beeksiks and Etapiks would win. It was now almost sunset. "Let us have one horse race," they said, "and we will stop." Each side had a good horse, and they ran their best, but they came in so close together it could not be told who won. The Shoshone claimed that it was their horses who won, and the Beikani would not allow it. So they got angry, and they began to quarrel. And pretty soon they began to fight and shoot each other, and some were killed. Since that time, The Pixies and the Picani have never been at peace. Isn't that interesting? You tell this whole story about the importance, about the how hard it is to create peace, how long it takes, You have to gather everyone. You have to make these alliances and intermarriage, give each other gifts to make peace. But to make war, all you need to do is to lie once, And it's just an amazing thing how that works. Okay, I will take a break. I'm gonna give my vocables a quick break with a song. Hopefully everybody's doing good out there. So taking a break with my vocals.
Perhaps it's the color of the sun-cut black uncovering the crossroads I'm standing at. Or maybe it's the weather or something like that. Mama, you're just on my mind. I don't mean trouble, please don't put me down. I get upset, I am not pleading or saying I can't forget. I do not walk the floor, bow down, or bend, but yet, Mama, you're just on my mind. I am not asking you to say words like yes or no, please understand me. I am not calling you to go. I'm just breathing to myself, pretending now that I don't know. Mama, you're just on my mind. When you wake up in the morning, maybe look inside your mirror, you know I won't be next to you. You know I won't be there. But I'd be curious to know if you could see yourself as clear as someone who has had you on his mind. Someone who has had you on his mind. Maybe it's the weather or something like that. Molly, you're just on my mind.
It's Suicide Awareness Month, and as someone who knows firsthand the tragedy that could come with that, I do want to make it known that it's something that we in Blackfeet country, we care about. We love you. We need you here. Oh man, we love you so much. I just wish that I could say the perfect words to you that will fill your heart with the joy that you need to know that you're important. And unfortunately, all I know is to say is that I love you and I pray for you, every single one of you. You know, for what it's worth, perhaps you could go outside and feel the rocks and the dirt in your toes and the wind on your face and look at those mountains, the beauty and the pristine of our, it's beyond anything that language could describe, you know, because it's just the truth, you all deserve to be loved, and you all deserve to be listened to. And with that, I know it's the radio, and I know you're on YouTube, and I know you could just mute me, but please join me for a moment of silence for the people who didn't make it. And I say that with all respect. It's a tough thing to lose your loved ones. It is. And all I can say is I love you. I love all the Six Gates, all Blackfoot Confederacy. I love Blackfoot Confederacy territory, It means the world to me. All Nitsitapi, all Indian people are beautiful. All the way from the Seneca, the Cree, the Nitchtapi, the Pondere, the Gutskipi, the Flathead people, the Isapu, the Crow. We have our small feuds, and we do joke and laugh around, and that's a great thing. But at the end of the day, our lives are all valuable and important. So for Suicide Awareness Month, take this couple moments of silence with me. That last song was George Harrison, Mama, You Just On My Mind. Okay, here's a story about Napi. Maybe I'll start reading a Napi story every day. Napi teases Gaio, the bear. A large and grumpy bear was digging. The bear was turning up rocks looking for insects. Napi liked to tease. He knew that bear had a very short tail. So he began to tease the bear. Hey, no tail, hollered Napi to the bear. The bear looked up at Napi, then continued digging. Napi hollered again, no tail. Again, lazy old bear just looked at Napi. Napi continued to tease the bear, calling him no tail. The bear ignored him for some time. All of a sudden, the bear took after Napi. The bear chased Napi around and around a big rock. The bear was getting closer and closer to Napi. Finally, he decided to use his bow and arrow on the bear. Each time Napi shot at the bear, the arrows broke because they were rotten. Napi went to use his knife, but that was also broken. As Napi continued to run, he stumbled over a buffalo horn. Napi grabbed the horn, so he gathered his courage and placed the horn on his head and turned around and charged at the bear as if to hook him. Napi hollered and made a scary noise. This frightened the bear, and the bear disappeared into the woods. Napi felt good. He had won a fight. And, one rendition of this story that I've heard is that, Napi came across this bear who was eating berries, and Napi was like, hey, bear, heck, you really stink. And that bear was like, oh, behave, Napi. Hey, bear, you really stink. So finally that bear's like, screw you. And he started chasing him. And so he chased him around this big rock, and pretty soon they were running around it so much that they started like digging in. And then again, Napi saw this horn, and he grabbed it, put it on his forehead, and he turned around and made that shrieking noise and ran after the bear. And the bear got scared, turned around, and pooped all over Napi and ran away. It's another version of that story I've heard. Anyways, let's go for another story from Grass Woman Stories. Made by Motoyoko Miyake. Mary Brown. The Children in the Wilderness. One day the children took their brothers and sisters up a big hill from their encampment. The children were playing and they were gone for half of the day. Finally, one of the chief's daughters came running, just a scream, and her folks didn't know what had happened to her, and they asked her what was wrong. She told them, "While we were playing, my necklace with the shells on it broke. The string broke and the shells fell off, and all those children took and grabbed them." The father got mad. He took his crier and told him to tell the people to break camp, for nobody to go over to get any of their children. He wanted them to leave, all of them. If anybody was to go after them, he was ready to shoot them down. Of course, he was a chief. Oh, the people felt bad, but what could they do? They had to obey that chief's orders. So they broke camp. They were traveling by travoy and horseback. They moved and they stayed in the back to see that everybody moved. There was not one left. It got to dusk, and when the children came home, there were no lodges. They didn't know what to make of it. They all started to cry, and they walked round and round where their folks' camps were, looking for anything they could find that belonged to their mothers. One little girl found one of these rocks that you use to smash berries. She said, Mom, here is your berry masher." It looked like a war club. Another little girl found another masher. Here is your pemmican masher." The children started out in the direction they thought their parents had gone. They came to a hill close by a big river. They kept hollering for their mothers and fathers. The first thing they heard was, "Ok, sapot. Come over this way." They saw a big lodge in the valley. It belonged to a Kipitaki, an old woman. "Oh, I'm glad to see you, my children," she said. "Come on, come in, come inside." When they all got there, they saw a great big fireplace. One girl had her little brother, and she wouldn't take him off her back. They all came in. They were very tired. The Kipitaki told them, "Don't put your heads against the lodge. There's a lot of mice. You should all put your heads towards the fireplace." So they all slept that way. The little girl said to her brother, "I am scared of that old woman. You watch her now. See what she's going to do." So they watched her. She had a big knife, and she started to cut those little ones' heads off. She put them in the pond. The girl told her little brother, "Just bite my ear when she gets close to us." Then there was just this one more before the woman came to them, and her little brother bit her ear. She sat up and told that Kipitaki, "Oh, have pity on me and my little brother. We'll live with you. We'll do anything you want of us. We will work for you." The old woman said to her, "All right." First thing she told her, "You better go down and get a bucket of water. Take and leave your brother here." The girl told her, "My little brother's awful dirty. He is liable to mess on you. I'll just take him along. He is no trouble." That old woman said, "All right." So the little girl took her the bucket and went down. The water was quite a ways, and she went down to the river. When they came to it, the water was dark green and blue. She saw an animal in it, a water buffalo. Suyi stomach. She said to the water buffalo, "Have pity on me and my little brother. Would you save us? Our parents deserted all of us children. We came to this big Nitoyas just a little ways away from here, and that Kipitaki, that Maka Kipitaki, that bad old woman, that witch, she tried to kill me, and she killed all the other children. There's just me and my little brother." That buffalo told her, "Look in my head, in the fur." So she looked and saw big black bugs. Her little brother had some bed beads around his neck, and she cracked one and said, "Your bugs taste good." And the buffalo told her, "Get on my back." She got on, and they started across the river. Just when they got past the middle of the creek, she looked back and she saw that Gippy-Docky. That Gippy-Docky yelled out, "Ah, no one's going to save you. Even that thing you're riding, he's not going to save you. Just let me get a hold of you. Boy, I am going to have a tender dish." That buffalo said, "Sideways, back and forth, sideways, back." And they kept on doing it. They would go sideways, back and forth. He got to the other side and they got off. He swam back across and he put his head on the bank, just the way it was before. That Gippy-Docky took her knife and hit him on the head. "You nasty old thing," she said. "You just ruined my dinner. I was going to have that tender of that baby on her back. What did you want to let them go for? Now I want you to take me across this river before they get out of my sight." The buffalo said, "All right, but look in my head." So she started to look. She picked a bug and cracked it and said, "Oh." And she just spit and spit. "Oh, you've got dirty, nasty bugs." "All right," he said. And she jumped on his back. And he said that same thing. Go back, forth, over. When he got to the middle of the river, he just turned over. A few minutes later, the fish and the animals were swimming around eating that old woman's guts. He killed her. That girl and that boy kept walking. Every once in a while, they'd stand and listen to see if they could hear any sound at all. They traveled for 4 days and 4 nights and huddled up in any place they could to sleep. They didn't have anything to eat but berries and roots. The 4th day, they went to the encampment place where their people had just moved. The coals in the fireplaces were warm yet. They didn't go too far from there before they had found the camp. She hunted for her father and her mother's teepee, and she found it. Instead of greeting them, her father sent word to the chief. "Our girl and boy are here, those that we left." So the Asesto, the camp crier, went out. "Everyone break camp! Nobody stay back!" The people took the girl and her brother and tied them to the top center pole of a medicine lodge with their backs together. There was an old Gippy-Docky in the camp with a dog, an Imita, whose name was Soyishksi, meaning a fly. Soyishksi. She tied some pemmican around his good neck and told him, "Soyishksi, I want you to go away out into the woods where you can't hear anybody, where we can't hear you. I want you to stay there. Do not move. After a while, when you think everyone is gone, go back and chew those little children loose." So he struck out into the woods. The old woman packed up and called her dog and called him, "Oh, Soyishksi, Soyishksi." And that chief came along and said, "Why are you so slow about moving?" She told him, "My dog disappeared. He came up missing last night, and he didn't come home this morning." "Keep busy," he said. "We will help you along." Finally, the place was quiet. There weren't any animals all around. All the people were gone. Oh, Soyishksi, that dog, came out and stood in the brush and looked around and listened. There was nobody around, so he came out and started to chew the ropes that tied those kids to the center pole. He chewed through the little boy's ropes, and he got up and untied his sister, and they ate that pemmican that was tied around his neck. Well, from then on, the children just stayed. They didn't care to look for their people anymore. They gathered up the rawhide and made a little teepee, and they lived there. The girl fixed up a little bow and arrow, and her little brother killed birds and jackrabbits for them to eat. Pretty soon, the boy was a grown young man. He got out and hunted, and she fixed their dry meats. Finally, they heard that their people were starving. He told his sister, I am going to go hunt tomorrow. The meat I bring, I want you to put it in all those teepee places where our people camped. Don't put any meat in that place where our mother and father camped, but cut 2 pieces of gristle, part of the leg. I want you to hang them in the fireplace and roast them. Take some of that fat and hang it over that fireplace too, so it'll heat up and melt. So he hunted and brought the meat. He told her, I am going to go look for Soyisksi, that dog. I'll bring him some meat. If I am not back in 4 days, you will be sure to know something has happened to me. If I'm back by the 4th day, everything is matqueki, everything is all right. She started fixing up a lot of pemmican and dry meat, and the young man took his bow and arrows and struck out. He kept traveling and traveling. The third day he could finally smell smoke, and he discovered the camp. He stayed in the bush all afternoon, watching what the people were doing. That night he went to look for the old lady and that dog whose name was Soyisksi. But Soyisksi, he was just about to give up. He was starving, sitting by the fire. He started to go to sleep and fall over. But that young man called him real soft. Soyisksi, Soyisksi, matuyit. Hey, fly, here is something to eat. And that dog would look up and listen around. That old lady told him, go back to sleep. You are dreaming. For quite a while he heard, Soyisksi, matuyit. Hey, fly, here's some food to eat. And finally he jumped through the door and just knocked that little boy over. So he came in. Oh, that Gipitaki was so glad to see that young man. He took off his pack, and the dog, and him and that dog had a picnic. The young man told that old lady, you get that crier, that ancestor, and get him to tell all the people to go back to that camp where they left us. They all should camp in the same places. He started back. He got home, and on the 4th night and asked his sister, did you fix the meat? She told him, So their people came. They all fixed their tent, their lodges, and there was meat in every place except their parents' place. They came running down. Oh, my boy, his mother cried. Don't come near me. Don't touch me, he told her. But I want you to lick that fat and gristle hanging in that fireplace. He had those 2 hard gristle muscles roasting. When his mother started to lick that fat, down she went. He told his father the same thing. He killed his father and his mother. You see, they had no pity for their children. That boy told that Kipitaki who saved them, you move in to my father and mother's lodge. It is all yours. And bring your dog, Soyisksi. And so they made Soyisksi the chief. Isn't that an interesting story? A dog being the chief. He is my chief. Anyways, I'm going to take a little quick vocal break. We'll come back and we'll wrap the show up. This song comes from the Bill and Ted movie that recently. I thought it was really beautiful, especially if you're a musician. You could appreciate it. So here it is, Bill and Ted, Face the Music. And we are back. Another thing I want to do with this program is to give voices to other people in our community. And it's really important to give voices to our community. So I have an interview with the Browning cross country head coach. And here it is right now. So, hello, Coach. How are you? And so Mr. Coach McNabb, how long have you been the Browning cross country head coach?
This is my first year as head coach for the Browning cross country. I coached 1 year in track 2 years ago. But in all, I've coached over 10 years in the Bay Area at a high level, and my goal is to bring that same effort and winning mentality here to Browning.
Mm-hmm. Why are you the head coach, and what do you get out of it?
I'm the head coach because I believe in what I do. I take a science-based approach to training. And my goal is to develop not just the physical, but also the spiritual, mental, and emotional strength in these athletes. We started the Browning running program 2 years ago because I want to develop a strong running community. So that way these kids have something to fall back on, to lean on, to build strength on, so they never go looking for answers in a bottle of alcohol or a meth pipe.
Mm-hmm. That's good. It's good. Who are all the people on your coaching team?
My coaching staff consists of Ross DeRouche and Shaylee Tassi, both of who helped me develop the Browning running program 2 years ago and get it off the ground. We all have the same vision, which is to develop athletes that are not just successful in sport, but successful in life. And the way we do this is we take a medicine wheel approach to training. You can't just develop the physical without also having the spiritual, the emotional, and mental strength to succeed. I believe in my coaching staff wholeheartedly, and I know we're going to succeed in anything we pursue.
Who were your mentors slash coaches who got you to where you are at today?
Some of my coaches and mentors growing up, I had Billy Mills as a mentor, someone I looked up to big time. In high school, my coach was Randy Shepard, and he was the one that had me on the quarter-mile repeats. Once I got into college, my coach was Mike Daney, and he's the one that laid down the speed work and the strength training. I never strength trained before, but it helped boost me over the top as far as an endurance athlete and ultra marathoner, and that mental toughness helped shape me into what I am now. As far as mentors, the Marine Corps instilled me with the discipline, the character, the stubbornness, and everything needed to succeed in this sport. Well, I strip away the military aspect and keep the discipline, keep the hustle, keep the ambition, and keep the fire burning, and it works. I don't really have a lot of people I look up to, but I do have a lot of people I follow as far as sobriety, as far as using running as a metaphor for life, as far as using running as a crutch to lean on when I need it, or also as a pillar of strength when I need it. Running has brought a lot of positive aspects in my life, and my goal is to share everything I learned with these athletes.
So, Coach, what do you want your athletes to gain from being on your team?
I want the athletes I coach to build confidence in themselves. Sure, the training's going to make us faster and we're going to build physical strength, but the hardship of training is also going to build that mental strength. So they learn how to tough out the hard times. Let the training build their emotional strength so they learn not to quit on themselves or not to quit at all. Let the hard training, the sore muscles, the hard days, let that build the spiritual strength so they find purpose in what they do. Not just in running, but in life. Anything in any endeavor they go through, they're going to have that spiritual strength, because without a sense of purpose, well, then there's no meaning. Doesn't matter how high you achieve. If you're not grounded, if you're not looking for answers in a creator, well, then you're going to look for answers somewhere else. And I don't want that to be in any drugs or alcohol or anything negative. Our athletes have a high ceiling, and my goal is to get them to see what I see, get them to see how high they can go, how far they can go, how they can reach if they just put a little effort in themselves. And it's going to be done through hardship. It's not going to be easy.
Is there any other words that you would like to add?
Lastly, we started the Browning running program 2 years ago, and we're starting to see it pay off. Not just with high caliber athletes, but with a stronger sense of community that faces hardship head on. Being positive doesn't mean everything's okay. It means we've been through hardship and our character is strong and developed because of it. Now, when these kids go through hardship or grief or depression, they know they have strength in character, the mental strength and the emotional strength to carry on positively in this life. So now they're the strong one in their family. Now when times go hard, now they pull everybody up. And once everybody's connected, because we're all connected, now we can get through the hardships together instead of facing everything alone.
How do you feel about your team?
This year's team, for my first year coaching, this is an awesome team. They have a high ceiling. They're talented. They're fast. They're ambitious for sure, but I like developing leadership in the juniors and seniors. Now they develop the leadership in their freshmen and sophomores. So then when them freshmen and sophomores come up, They're the veteran leadership that develops the next generation of runners, and that positive feedback loop keeps going. Our team this year, I'm excited because we're not just fast, but we have some awesome characters. We have some awesome people. We have talent that's being uncovered every day. And I'm excited not just for their running future, but when these kids go out in life, I have no doubt they have the talent and ability to be successful in whatever they do. As a coach, as a mentor, I'm super proud of how far this team has come. And we haven't even come close to reaching our ceiling yet. So I'm super excited.
Well, that was an interview with Coach Roy McNabb, who is the head coach for the cross-country team for Browning. Mr. Coach McNabb, he seems like he's a really nice person in the community. You know, he's the kind of person that will pull over and help you get your car keys out when you accidentally lock them in your car. You know, thanks for that, your time, Coach. I really appreciate it. With that, we're going to be wrapping up this show, and something I always neglect to do, what people actually requested me to do, is to count to 10. And I actually uploaded a video on our Browning Native American Studies Facebook page. It's BNAS Browning Schools Facebook page. YouTube page. So go there, like, and subscribe. You'll enjoy it. We got some decent content already loaded, and there will be some more. So let's count to 10. Ni dukska, na duka, niukska, ni su, ni setu, noi, ihkitsika, na niso, pihkso, gepo. Let's do that again. Ni dukska, na duka, niukska, nisu, nisetu, noi, ihkitsika, nanisu, pihkso, gepo. I'm going to play one more song, and then after that, we'll give our goodbyes. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. And this next song, it really represents my personal existential crisis.
I reflect on my reflection, and I ask myself the question, what's the right direction to go? I don't know. Am I a man? Or am I a muppet? If I'm a muppet, then I'm a very manly muppet. I am a muppet. Or am I a man? Am I a man? If I'm a man, that makes me a muppet of a man. A muppet of a man. I look into these eyes, and I don't recognize the one I see inside. It's time for me to decide. Am I a man, or am I a muppet? Am I a muppet? If I'm a muppet, then I'm a very manly muppet. Very manly muppet. Am I a muppet? Or am I a man? Am I a man? If I'm a man, that makes me a muppet of a man. Muppet of a man. Here I go again, I'm always running out of time. I think I made up my mind. Now I understand who I am. I'm a man. I'm a muppet.
what I have. I still don't know, you guys, whether I'm a man or a Muppet. But again, if I am a Muppet, I am a very manly Muppet. But if I am a man, I'm a Muppet or a man, I am a Muppet of a man. Is that how it works? Anyways, you know, this is Reservation Radio, Thunder Radio, 107.5 on your FM dial. And we're also doing YouTube Live to correspond with that, because in response to COVID-19, Browning Public Schools has gone remote. And I am the coordinator for the Blackfeet Native American Studies Department. And I thought, you know, what an interesting opportunity to put our culture and our language on the airwaves, so that the students who are having difficulties logging on to their duties could turn on Browning Radio and hear and, you know, learn about Blackfoot ways and culture and in our language. Because you know what? Whenever there's going to be Reservation Radio, some person's going to say, we should speak our language on there. I guess I'm that person, or one of them, you know? It's not a competition. Because sovereignty is our own voice. The radio is a good place to practice that sovereignty, to put out our own voice, to tell our own stories, to talk to you, to the youth of the Piikani, and also from the people, the curious people tuning in to watch our show on YouTube Live and on Thunder Radio, the ones passing through Browntown. You know, this is our culture and this is who we are. And as Piikani, we were always happy to share our stories. And we were always happy for people to learn from us, because, hey, we are some pretty intelligent people, right? And might I add, we are also very good looking. Anyways, with that being said, you know, I love you all. I hope you guys have a pleasant time of your life. I love you all. I will speak to you all later. Okay.